So hello and welcome to my first Michelin Mission of 2020. Fun fact before we delve into the details of the new Bugatti Pur Sport, the tyres which have been specifically developed for this car allow for so much torque to be applied to the tarmac that Bugatti actually had to re-engineer the internal gearbox components just to deal with the stresses. Let's check it out. So hello, welcome to the heart of Bugatti. I'm honoured to be here. As you know, this week the Geneva Motor Show has been cancelled, so we're all bouncing around Europe trying to unearth the most special cars, and arguably this is one of the most special. Today I'm honoured to be here with Frank Heil, Deputy Design Director of Bugatti, and he's going to give us a walk and talk of the new Bugatti Pur Sport. So you've done a very good job so far of keeping this very secret. And it's unusual to stand it in front of a car and know very little about it. So I'm fascinated to hear what you've done to make this, from what I understand, is a more sort of driver-focused version of a Chiron.
That's right. If we take the Chiron as a base product, last year we've presented the Chiron Super Sport 300 Plus, which was aimed at top speed. This is more aimed at handling and agility and the feeling of driving and the sensation of driving. And so this has a reduced top speed, 350 kilometers per hour. And that reduced top speed, the potential of that in the technological development, we've used to invest it into all things and directions that make this car handle much better.
It wouldn't be too far of a stretch to say that when people think of Bugatti as a brand, everyone currently thinks about top speeds. For you guys, it's quite a bold move to go, okay, let's not think about top speed. You've just done that with the Super Sport 300. What have you done? What's the main changes on this car in order to sort of enhance that driver engagement?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, we've enlightened it, so it's 50 kilograms lighter. It's got more downforce. It's got a shorter gear way through, which is the main thing here. It's got an engine that revs 200 revs higher. It's got a different chassis setup. It's got minus 2.5 degrees camber. It's got really light wheels, magnesium. And it's got a different tire, Michelin tire. It's the Pilot Sport Cup 2Rs now. And all of this together adds up to a completely new experience for the driver. Much more crisp, like a surgical instrument, handling, turning in, and the enjoyment of cornering and handling in corners, really.
So I'm actually here on the behalf of your tyre partner. In order to extract the most performance out of a tyre in terms of handling as opposed to straight line speed.
Well, as I've mentioned before, we've set the suspension here at minus 2.5 degree camber. So that means the tire will, for more of the time, run only on its inner flank. So there are certain things that you have to take into consideration when you do the compound for this tire. So it's not just a softer compound, it's also a different build-up and the layering of how the tire is made specifically for the purpose for the Pure Sport here.
So let's talk about downforce. Clearly with that substantial rear wing and elongated front splitter, there's more emphasis now on downforce.
That's right. And can't be overlooked. We've added a rear wing, of course, for the downforce.
Yeah.
We've also added a longer front splitter and the louvers on the front wings. This is to balance out the front downforce. But we've also raised the rake angle of the diffuser to create downforce overall on the car. And that works in correlation to the weight saving, not to load too much pressure onto the tires, because pressure is always critical here.
Gear ratios being shortened, that's a really big deal.
It's a big deal, yeah. If you imagine yourself, you're sitting in a Chiron and you're thrusting through some fantastic windy country roads, and now you're accelerating through the corners. It's these corner relevant speeds, like 100 to 200, that we've really increased the performance a lot by actually shortening the gear ratios. So if you imagine yourself, you're sitting there and you're thrusting 1,500 horsepower out of a curve, and now the gear ratios are actually much, much shorter. So the gear ratios are shortened, and that leads to elasticity values between 60 and 120 that are actually 40% enhanced, right? So 40% less time than it takes to get to those numbers, which is insane. If you have 40%, if you think of that, you're sitting in the Chiron and now it's 40% more. This is crazy.
I actually can't wrap my head around that. So I was really fortunate. I got to drive up a fantastic road in the Middle East called Jebel Hafid with Andy Wallace in a, dare I say it, standard Chiron. And that blew my mind. So the thought of reducing acceleration times by 40% is insane.
This is a big deal.
Yeah,
and it goes
huge.
together with the grip lever from those tires, really, and that chassis setup. So if you think that you're turning in, and we have a new mode for driving, it's called Sport Plus. It actually allows a certain drift angle, so you can place the car on the throttle a little bit.
Wow.
And it has a really direct turn in because of the negative 2.5 degrees camber angle. Together with the grip lever from those tires, it really makes you feel as you're in a really much more agile car.
And also, it's not just from an aesthetic or gearbox level, you've also redeveloped the torsional structure of the chassis.
The carbon fiber monocoque is really the backbone of this car, and it has a really high torsional rigidity. So this car has 50,000 Newton per degree torsional rigidity. This is like LMP1 spec, right?
Yeah.
So these harder these harder springs and dampener setup can work towards that really stiff structure that doesn't give even 1 degree. So it's very precise in the way that it turns in and handles because of the backbone of the car, of the structure, right?
Yeah. What revisions have you made to the suspension?
Well, suspension, it's active suspension, it's active dampener setup, right height control anyways, like every Chiron, but it's a different software on it, so the dampeners are actually more firm. Also stiffer springs and different sway bars, and that all work together with the different camber angles and the tire compound. And also the wheels. The wheels do a big part. Those are magnesium wheels. We've specifically decided not to go for carbon fiber wheels because it wouldn't have actually created a weight saving advantage. These wheels overall, magnesium, they save 16 kilogram unsprung mass, which you really feel, because that means every bump that you go through will make the wheel lift less. Right? The wheel will stay close to the ground, will keep the tire in grip. And we've decided to go for a metal because the metal will actually conduct the heat out of the brake away from the brake, actually, to make the brake cool. Because everything that you accelerate, you want to decelerate as well.
Sure.
That's why also these carbon fiber Aero blades play a significant part in this. They actually create a suction from the inside of the wheel to the outside.
Wow.
So they do create downforce. We've proven this in our wind tunnel.
The wheels create downforce?
This is the first time we've actually managed for a wheel to create downforce.
Wow.
And so they cool the brakes because of that even better. And if you imagine the air, usually it hits this corner, it bounces off, and it creates a negative pressure here.
Yes.
So if you fill that negative pressure with air that comes from the inside, you actually reattach the airflow a lot better to make the rear radiators suck in more air, more clean air. And as another effect, that's why we also put those Aero blades on the rear wheel.
Right.
We found an effect that on the rear wheel, the air can come out this side and actually, unfortunately, return into the wheel on this side.
Okay.
So by putting these blades, we prevent the air from going inside, and so we extract all the heat, not only from the front but also from the rear, and we've improved the radiators and they create downforce. So they're like an overall winner for this car, the wheels.
So your wheels are like extractor fans with
They
downforce?
are, effectively they are.
Unbelievable, isn't it? In terms of production numbers, how many lucky people in the world might get the opportunity to own one?
We have created a business case for this car that makes the production limited to 60 cars.
Okay.
60 cars, 3 million euros each plus local taxes.
Wow. I mean, you know, what's interesting about what we've just spoken about, and I'm sort of really fortunate to have learned this over the years of driving cars, that you will read the changes on paper, and at face value it doesn't seem like a big change.
Just numbers, yeah.
They're just
You have to
numbers,
get in and drive.
they're small things, you know, aesthetic changes. These things are so much greater than the sum of their parts. Strip weight, more downforce, shorter gear ratios, it's huge. Hopefully one day I'll be able to experience it, because my first drive in a Chiron blew my mind.
On the wing we have these Aero fences, we call those, and they provide a shielding off an effect that is caused by the wing support here, to have the underside really clean, so that turbulence that is created by the wing support does not actually spread out over the wing, so the wing can work in a most efficient way. On the diffuser, we've pulled up this surface so that the rake angle is more aggressive, so that the diffuser alone will create more downforce. And then we come around to this element, which is a very special element. It's an exhaust tip printed 3D from titanium. And the printing technology allowed us to actually have really thin wall thicknesses and to make this part extremely light. And because of the wall thicknesses are so thin, we added this extra cooping here to achieve a road homologation, so that nobody gets hurt when walking past, and yet still have these really thin and lightweight structures. This is only possible from 3D printing titanium. It's also very heat resistant, because obviously the heat here is very intense.
And it just so happens to look awesome.
It just so happens to
look great.
Yeah, so on the front, we've opened up the front to manage the thermodynamics here. So if you use the engine to an extent at low speeds, you want the radiators to be able to flow as much air through as you can. So we've opened up the front. Radiator intakes here on the side. We've made the horseshoe very thin, but very wide in proportion.
It's so deep, isn't it?
It's got a lot of offset here that gives it what's giving it this.
Wow.
Brake cooling intake as we used to have, and we have these louvers on the front wings now. They vent the wheel wells, the pressure build-up that you get from evacuating the front radiators into the wheel wells, would otherwise push the car up on the front. So we're trying to counterbalance that with a larger splitter in the front, but also to relieve the pressure here through those. On the headlight, we have an extra air curtain here that brings the air to the side. Air bounces off here naturally and creates an under pressure or low pressure area in this here. And we have two air curtains. One is below here and one is up here. And they both exit on these slots, if you look from the side, to fill up that negative pressure area. This helps the drag.
Wow. So it's the details you have.
There's a lot of Alcantara. We chose Alcantara because it's lighter than leather, right? So, but also it's better for the comfort when you're cornering at high G forces, right? So not that you're sliding around.
Sure.
That you have the grip. So on the steering wheel, 12 o'clock marker. We've got the longer pedals actually.
Right.
And there's a lot of Alcantara to grip you and make you comfortable inside at high cornering speeds.
Matte carbon.
Matte carbon, yeah, that's quite a nice finish. And we've lasered this Alcantara, and there's a metallized textile behind, which has the same blue. We call this bleu agile, so the agile blue.
Yeah.
and it's got these textures in here, and to create a new look. And they're kind of this. Parametric grasshopper kind of style, so they're fading out, right? You see on the passenger door there.
Okay, so there we have it, the new Bugatti Pur Sport, a more driver-focused, slightly track-biased Bugatti Chiron effectively, but everything is just fettled and fondled and turned up to 11 so that the driver gets the emotion that we often speak about on this channel. Now, I've had the honor of driving Chirons in the past. The last thing you think about when you step out of a Chiron is, you know what that needs? A little bit more power and a little bit more soul. They're incredible machines. So to think what this is going to be like, I think the thing which has attracted me the most to it is the shorter gear ratios and how they've been able to achieve so much traction. And hopefully we'll be able to share what the first drive of this car is like in the near future. You heard the numbers. They're going to be making around 60 cars, which isn't quite as rare as some of the Chiron editions that have gone by previously, which hopefully means we'll be able to bring you some access and see what it's like to drive. So questions and comments below. Let me know what you think, and hopefully I'll be sharing this with you on a road very soon. Ciao.